Welcome back, Posies. Today we're going to be making a very simple but very popular soap. So this is going to be a 3-ingredient pure Castile soap, aka olive oil soap. So this soap is probably a soap you have heard of, Castile soap. So Castile soap is just one oil, so this is going to be pure olive oil, no other oils. And we're going to have its 3 ingredients because we've got our oil, we have lye, and we have water. So this is not going to have any scent in it, and I think this soap is a good choice if you are maybe someone who is new to soap making but want to try some different recipes. So this is a very simple soap recipe, and it is easy, but I have made this soap a couple of times and I have some tips and tricks for you so you can make this properly and without a hitch. Olive oil is just a liquid oil, so you don't have to melt it or anything like that. So we've just got our olive oil poured into here. Now what you can do, olive oil has fluctuated in price in the past couple of years and of course months. So if you want to save on some olive oil, if you are trying to make a full olive oil soap, you can get olive oil pumice. Olive oil pumice is a little bit cheaper alternative to olive oil, but it still has all of the same properties. It just looks a little different, but it will come out just the same. So this is a very simple recipe, and if you want to save a little bit, you can get olive oil pumice, but you can just use regular olive oil in the store. So all we do is we've got our olive oil in this little bowl, and we have our lye solution right here. So this is for 1 loaf of soap. This will make about 10 bars of soap. So if you want to try this recipe yourself, here is the amounts for that. This is 37 ounces of olive oil. We've got 4.71 ounces of lye, and you'll use that same number for your water. And we're also just using a small 5% super fat. Olive oil soap is not a very harsh cleansing soap, so you can just use whatever super fat you'd like for your skin needs. And I would recommend for this soap specifically to do a 50-50 or at least some type of water discount, because olive oil soap can be kind of deceiving, but also it takes a very long time to mix together, like to get to a thicker consistency once we put our lye in. So having less water will help that. And also, one thing that's interesting about olive oil soap is that it does take longer to cure. So you want to use a little bit less of water. You want to use a little bit less water just to decrease the amount of water weight in your soap. You still have to let it cure. For olive oil soap, it is recommended to cure for about at least 6 months, because this soap is not the same as other soap, so it will have to cure longer than 4 to 6 weeks. That is, but it is safe to use after it has went through saponification, which is usually in about 48 hours, and you can check that with a pH strip, but it will be best to use after it has cured. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and pour our lye solution in. And another reason you want to have a little bit of a better discount is because if you have too much water in your olive oil soap, you know, olive oil and water don't mix, and if you have a very high amount of water in your soap, it can start to separate. I am doing a 50-50. I would recommend doing a 50-50. It's much easier. But if you want to do something like a 42 or something like that, you can. But I'm using a 50-50 today. I'm going to take my blender and I'm going to pour this over the shaft of my blender just to kind of make sure we don't splash anything. And olive oil soap, like I said, it is a very thin soap batter. I'm going to mix this till it is fully blended and try to get some thickness to it. This is another good soap recipe to get a nice blender. Some blenders have, you'll see when you buy a blender, it will have how many watts it is. So that's kind of like how powerful it is. And so this blender is very inexpensive. I think I have it linked in the description, but it has a little bit more power to it. It does have a turbo button, so you can blend this a little bit faster. So this is what the consistency is looking like so far. It is still pretty thin. I'm just going to blend it some more, and then we will pour this into our mold once it gets just a little bit thicker. So I know this is all blended together now, so I'm going to go ahead and just pour this in my mold. Now, one thing about olive oil soap that I feel like is deceiving is, even though this is soft, and this is soft right now, and it might take a long time to blend, this is a soap that gets very hard. So I would monitor it, of course, because depending on your climate, it could get harder quicker, because the soap will get hard and it will start to break if you don't cut it in time. So that's one thing that I misunderstood a long time ago when I first made this soap, was that because it took so long to set up, that it meant it took a long time to get hard, and that's not the same thing. So you want to monitor it, and it does depend on your climate and maybe what your recipe is. I've made this soap with a couple different water amounts, and it's always gotten hard for me. I would monitor it, and once it starts getting hard enough, I would go ahead and cut it. Got a spatula, and we're gonna scrape our bowl out, because you don't want to put soap batter down the drain. So here is the final soap in the mold, and once this starts to go through saponification more and get harder, this will lighten up. And also, once this hardens a little bit more, I want it to get to a much thicker consistency. I'm going to spray it with alcohol, 99% alcohol, because I want to prevent soda ash. But if I sprayed it on here right now, it would get wrinkly on top because it's too liquidy. So I'm going to set this aside where I won't jiggle it and stuff, and then we're going to spray it with alcohol, and I'll come back to cut it, and we'll also do a lather test, because I have some olive oil soap bars that I made a good long time ago that are fully cured, so you can see the lather on those. So stay tuned for that, and I will see you then. So it's been a little bit over 24 hours. So now I'm going to go ahead and cut my olive oil soap, because it is olive oil soap, but once it gets over the hump of being soft, it will get hard pretty quickly. So I think this is the perfect time to cut it. Here's one. This is a very pretty soap, nice and pure. And this is a great soap if you have sensitive skin or are worried about certain ingredients bothering you. This is a great soap for that. Okay, and there is our Castile soap. So I lied, y'all. I said that I had a soap that was a Castile soap that was fully cured. We did, but I think we have sold all of them, so we don't have one anymore. I thought we did, but we don't. So I'm just gonna take a piece of this, and we're gonna do a little lather test. So this is only after a couple of days. Now, one thing I think is a big misconception about olive oil soap is that it has like the worst lather in the world. I see people talking about this all the time, but it does have a good lather. So this is just the lather after a couple of days. It's very good, and I have used fully cured Castile soap, and it is of course even better. So do not sleep on Castile soap. It does have a really good lather. So if you want to try this recipe and get a really nice lather, you can do that. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to like and subscribe. Comment down below where you're from, and I'll see you in the next video.